Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article is speaking about changes in the labor laws. We have the labor, which happens to be an entry in the concurrent list. So who can make laws? It is the central government which would be able to make laws. It would be the state government which would also be able to make laws as well. Because both the governments would be able to make laws, there were more than 40 laws when it comes to the central government, and there were more than 100 laws when it comes to the state government as well. This had created a lot of ambiguity, a confusion, and this had also constricted when it comes to the ease of doing business as well. In order to overcome this issue, in order to simplify the laws with respect to industrial disputes, working conditions, social security, and wages, the government of India has simplified the process by passing some of the important laws with respect to the labor. This includes Industrial Relations Code Bill of 2020, Code on Security Bill of 2020, and Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code Bill of 2020. Let's try and understand everything with respect to these three bills. First, let us understand the importance of Industrial Relations Code. What exactly happens within this code? You basically have three important laws when it comes to the labor reforms that included the Trade Unions Act of 1926, Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act of 1946, and Industrial Disputes Act of 1947. So these three laws were present before the government came up with this particular bill. Now what we will have is all these three laws merged together, and this will give rise to the Industrial Relations Bill of 2020. What are the important consequences or features of this particular bill? We have Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. Article 19(1) of G speaks about freedom of profession, occupation, trade or business, which means in case I want to start a business, I would be able to start that particular business. In case I want to close that particular business, I can again close as well. But this particular article is not absolute. Why is it not absolute? Yes, I have every right to start off with a business, but in case I want to shut a particular business and that is harming the public interest, then I as a person would not be able to shut that particular business. That is why there is a restriction that is imposed in the form of laws as well. So you would be able to start a particular business. That is what Article 19 of 1 of G says. But when it comes to closing, if it is not harming the public interest, you would be able to shut your business. But if it is harming the public interest, the government can step in, and that is when laws will also take into precedence as well. So this Article 19 of 1 of G is not absolute, and it means the government would also be able to step in and ask that particular business outlet not to close its business. Here comes the major rule when it comes to Industrial Relations Code. One of the important feature is that, let's say, before this particular bill was passed, if I was running a particular industry, in case there are more than 100 people in my particular company, I would not be able to fire them. Now this particular provision has been increased to about 300 workers. So if there are 300 workers or more, only then I will have to take the permission from the government of India, and if it is anything less than 300, I would still be able to hire and fire them in case I am the owner of an industrial outlet. Before, this was for about 100 workers, and now this has been raised to about 300 workers. So kindly remember, in case there is an industrial outlet and if there are people more than 300, and in case this business outfit will want to shut its operations, it will still require the government approval. As we discussed, Article 19 of 1 of G is not absolute, and the government approval will require under this particular pretext. However, if they have filed an application with respect to the government of India, and if the authorities do not respond to their request, the retrenchment proposal will deem to be approved as well. This is one of the important features when it comes to the Industrial Relations Bill of 2020. The next important feature is with respect to the strikes. The code also seeks to restrict the right of the workers to go on a strike as well. Earlier, whenever there was a worker, in case he had an issues with the industry, he would just give a notification of 2 weeks and 6 weeks of notice, and he could go on a strike with respect to that industry. Now a worker cannot go on strike without providing at least a 60-day notice, and at the same time, in case there is a proceeding that is being conducted with respect to all the industrial disputes within a particular tribunal or an industrial tribunal, then once again they would not be able to go for a strike according to the notification released by the government of India. So the code has expanded to all the industrial establishments with respect to both the companies of hiring and firing, and also with respect to the strike as well. Further, it also speaks about the trade union as well. So what is a trade union? Let's say for example, we are all working in an industry. There are more than 300 people working in an industry. They have some issues, they have some concerns with respect to how the organization is operating. That is when these number of people will come together, they will have a leader, so on and so forth. They voice their opinion to this leader, and this leader will ultimately represent a particular union with respect to the employer. So what do we have? We have two people here. One is the employer, the other is the employee. So the employee will have their concerns. These concerns will be represented to the union, and the union will put it to the employer. That is what is trade union. So we had what is called as the Trade Unions Act of 1926. According to it, they have section 2 of it, which clearly defines what a trade union is. It is a relationship between an employee and an employer. It is a relationship between a workman and another workman, and a relationship between the employer and another employer. So whenever there are concerns that are arising because of the ambiguity, because of various issues with respect to the functioning, these concerns will have to be voiced, and that voicing body is what is called as trade union. What is the present feature with respect to the trade union? When there is more than one trade union within a particular industrial outfit, then all those trade unions will not be able to represent that particular concern. So only in case there is a trade union which has 51% and more people, such trade union will voice the concern and will be a representative body for all the trade unions. Now let's say there is no trade union which has more than 51% strength. So what should the employer do? The employer will appoint what is called as the negotiating council. So this negotiating council will speak to the trade unions. So who will it speak to? It will speak to the trade unions where the number is beyond 20%. There might be number of trade unions, but it will start speaking from all those representatives which has more than 20% in that trade union, and ultimately they will have all the consensus, they will negotiate, and they will try to fix this particular issue within that particular industrial outlet. So these are some of the important features when it comes to the Industrial Relations Code Bill of 2020. Then we have something called as the Code on Security Bill of 2020. What will happen under this? There will be an establishment of the National Social Security Board. What is this National Social Security Board? This will take the responsibility of formulating all the important schemes for the unorganized workers. So we have something called as the organized workers, there is unorganized workers, but for the unorganized workers, it is this body which will bring in schemes such that they are empowered when it comes to the social security. So what is the social security? This can be in the form of life as well as the disability insurance. It can be with respect to the provident funds. It can be with respect to the health and maternity benefits or skill upgradation as well. And who will decide all that? It will be the National Social Security Board with respect to the unorganized sector. And at the same time, they have also taken the reference of the gig workers as well as the platform workers. So who are these gig workers? Basically, they are temporary workers. Let me give you an example. You want to order your food, you open the Zomato app or the Swiggy app, then there is a delivery person who comes and delivers to you. That is a gig person. Or Flipkart is delivering some goods for you. That person who's delivering these goods to your house is also a gig worker. So this gig worker is also a temporary worker. They might not have any of the social security schemes. That is where the government says they will provide some social security schemes and programs. So this social security bill is all about providing the social security in the form of insurance and other benefits. Now the third bill is about occupational safety, health and working conditions code bill of 2020. This will basically make sure that the health, safety and working conditions of the employee is safer. When it comes to the women employees, they might not be able to work when it comes to the night conditions or in the hazardous conditions. That is because of the safety issue. But what the government says is, in case there is the employer, if he is able to provide the safety and provide all the due conditions that is required for the women to work, then in such a condition the women would be able to work. So if you are able to provide all the necessary safety precautionary measures, then women would be able to work according to this occupation safety. And at the same time, it also speaks about the migrant worker as well. Who is a migrant worker? Let's say I am a person from the state of Kerala, or I am a person from the state of Uttar Pradesh. I am leaving my native state, going to another state for work. But who will be a migrant worker? He is earning a particular income which cannot cross 18,000 per month. In case it is crossing 18,000 per month, it will not fall under the definition of migrant worker, and I should be a person who should leave my native state, home state, and go into another state looking for the job. That will fall under the migrant worker. And at the same time, when it comes to this migrant worker, the proposal in this particular bill is that there are people who are leaving their home states. There is something called as the public distribution system, which is also providing them food items as well. So this person who's left the native state, goes to a different state, will still be able to take the public distribution system benefits, and he can take it in his home state or the state where he is going for the work. This is one of the benefit that which has been given by the government of India. And at the same time, the amount of work or the number of hours of work is restricted to about 8 hours. And at the same time, the code empowers a state government to exempt any new factory from the provisions of this code. Let's say there is a new factory that is being set up in one of the states. So the state government will still be able to exempt all these laws. That is because they have to pump up the economy, increase the economy, and will also have to make sure that there are employment provisions that are provided. So in this particular backdrop, they might exempt this particular company in following all these rules that which has been laid by the central government, says this particular bill. Now that we have looked into the major features, what are the merits when it comes to this particular analogy? When it comes to this particular bill, what we can actually see is there are number of companies which did not want to become a bigger company. Why? Because in case they are becoming bigger company, let's say more than 100 people who are employed, then such a company will not be able to fire the people. They would ideally require the permission of the government. Now it has been extended to more than 300, but before that, anything more than 100, they still had to seek the permission of the government for firing people. So this was not flexible enough for the person who is hiring. This means there was ease of business which was comparatively low as well. According to the World Bank, in case there are less restrictions when it comes to the labor law, then India would be able to add more work when it comes to the formal sector, and that is the major merit now. Why? Because the 100 mark that is put up in the previous bill is now been extended to 300 people. So only if there are 300 people and more, and such a company will have to seek the approval of the government. Then at the same time, there are criticisms when it comes to this particular bill. What is the major criticism? The major criticism is with respect to the deliberation. Why? Because when it comes to this particular bill, there are number of legislations which are being replaced right now. It also means there are number of bills that are also replaced and repealed as well. These are some of the bills. So it means when you're replacing number of bills, you will have to also speak to the stakeholders, you will also have to speak to the state governments, you will also have to speak to the trade unions, you will also have to speak to the people as well. This was not taken into picture by the union government is the first major concern. So ideally it should have deliberated, discussed, and all the stakeholders will have to be brought onto this platform, but that was not considered by the central government in this particular case. And now, with some of the exceptions that are also given to the company, some of the basic human rights will also get violated as well. Why? Because the companies are now given a greater freedom in termination and exit decisions. That means it is the people, it is the laborers who are the major sufferers. Their livelihood means their issues with respect to their family and other things would not be taken into picture, and ultimately they are the major sufferers. And at the same time, the state government have been given more powers of rule making, and they would also be able to exempt these industrial bodies in following some of the rules and regulations. And that is another major issue, is what we have to understand with respect to this article. It is this that we have to understand with reference to this issue. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Lantana camara. This is a species of flowering plant which is a small perennial shrub native to the American tropics. So this is native to the Central and South America, and this has spread to around 50 countries where it has become an invasive species. How did it come to India? Lantana camara was brought to India by the British as an ornamental plant, possibly as long as 200 years ago. What we have to understand in this particular backdrop is when this invasive species enters a new region or a new area, what could be the problems to that particular regional biodiversity. When L. camara happens to enter that particular region, it will compete with the native species, and this means there will be a reduction in the biodiversity. Ideally, it was not meant to be in India. It was originally belonging to Central America and South America, but since it was introduced into India, what it will fight for is for the resources with the native biodiversity, which will lead to reduction in the biodiversity. And when this invasive species enters the farmland, there can also be a drop when it comes to its productivity as well. These are some of the concerns with respect to this particular invasive species. Now the question is, why do they persist and why are they successful in adapting to that particular region? That is because they are less prone to be eaten by the animals because of their toxicity. When it comes to the normal greenery, you would have multiple animals coming up and eating their leaves, but that is not the same when it comes to the Lantana camara. Because they are toxic in nature, animals do not prefer eating these toxic leaves, and they are also tolerant to a wide range of environmental conditions as well. What is the present context? Because they are harmful to the biodiversity and to that particular region, they are being uprooted in the Sajjangar Wildlife Sanctuary. So kindly remember, this Sajjangar Wildlife Sanctuary is located in Udaipur district of Rajasthan in southern Aravalli Hills. This can be a very important question from your preliminary examination point of view. It is this that we have to understand with reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, address aspirations of Tamil people, Modi urges Rajapaksa. What is the context? Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Rajapaksa recently had a virtual summit. They were speaking about how to enhance the relationship between India and Sri Lanka. From the point of India, India did say that we have something called as the 13th Constitutional Amendment with respect to Sri Lanka. Prime Minister Narendra Modi requested the Sri Lankan Prime Minister to make sure that this 13th Constitutional Amendment is implemented. So what is it? This is about devolving the powers to the states in Sri Lanka. So what is this all about has been explained in one of our videos. The link for the same will also be provided in the description box, so kindly look into it. India further went about giving about $15 million for the promotion of Buddhist ties as well. This will be taken up for restoring all the monasteries in Sri Lanka, and India also requested Sri Lanka to expedite the construction of about 10,000 houses that which is present in the northern part of Sri Lanka where the Tamil minority are currently concentrated. Further, Sri Lanka also owes some money to India. This is about $960 million and it had requested for a moratorium which India has not communicated anything about. And then we also have $1.1 billion currency swap arrangement request made by Sri Lanka as well. India once again did not respond to this particular query. Why? Because India already had a $400 million currency swap already initiated with Sri Lanka. So because we already had an existing swap agreement, India did not consider this particular request. And at the same time, Sri Lanka did not also look into the prospects of East Container Terminal deal which India and Japan had entered with Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka did not also look into this particular impasse regarding the Trincomalee container terminals as well. These are some of the issues and concerns both with respect to India and Sri Lanka as well. After this particular point of 13th constitutional amendment was made to Prime Minister Rajapaksa, he conveyed to India that we have the constitution and we will make sure that all the ethnic groups that are present in Sri Lanka will be respected and whatever powers will have to be devolved to the Tamil minorities. Further, Prime Minister Rajapaksa also spoke about the fishing issue with respect to India as well as Sri Lanka. What is the problem here? We have the Indian fishermen who enter the Sri Lankan waters. They enter these waters and they also use the trawlers as well. As they use the trawlers to get the fishing, they also damage the ecology of the Sri Lankan waters. This was also voiced by the Sri Lankan Prime Minister to the Indian Prime Minister as well. So because they are using heavy nets, this will badly affect the region's marine life, impacting the fish production as well as the marine diversity, and as a result the livelihood mechanisms for all the Sri Lankan fishermen is hurted, says the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. This is the concern voiced by Prime Minister of Sri Lanka to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There were other mutual cooperation agreements as well, that is to enhance cooperation when it comes to combating terrorism, drug trafficking, fields of intelligence, information sharing, de-radicalization, and also capacity building when it comes to all these areas. It is this that we have to understand with reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Gilgit-Baltistan issue. Kindly remember, the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir, now the Union Territory, is part and integral part of India. But then some part is occupied by Pakistan, and that is what is called as the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. One of the regions in Pakistan occupied Kashmir is the Gilgit-Baltistan issue. What is this Gilgit-Baltistan issue? From the historical perspective has been explained in one of our videos, and the link for the same will also be provided in our description box. What is the focus of today's discussion? It will be on Diama Basha Dam. What is this dam? It is a concreted gravity dam built across river Indus between Kohistan district in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Daima district in Gilgit-Baltistan. What is the importance of this dam to Pakistan? Basically, this is a hydroelectricity project as well. Why? Because Pakistan currently is energy deficit when it comes to the northeastern part as well. So because they are energy deficit, this is both in the urban and rural areas, and because there is electricity load shedding, there is impact to its factory and discouraging the foreign investment in this very region. In order to make sure that there is electricity and there is pumping up of the economy, Pakistan has initiated this particular dam project. Why? Because there is lower employment in this region, so they have to make sure there is increasing in employment. Then there is economic output as well as exports which have gradually gone down in order to give boost to the economy. That is why Pakistan has initiated this hydroelectricity project. This dam is being built jointly by a Chinese state-run firm as well. But there are concerns with respect to this project. What is it? There are two major issues. As we initially said, this is an official part of India, but that is occupied by Pakistan, which means they are violating the sovereignty of India. There is also a widespread feeling that Pakistan has come under the pressure of China and is firming things up in Gilgit-Baltistan, eventually creating a condition such that this line of control becomes the international border in the near future is what Pakistan is assuming. But India has always said the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir, now a union territory, is an integral part of India. And at the same time, from the Pakistan side, it could result in an ecological disaster as well. Why? Because this dam being constructed is in a region which is earthquake prone region, and whenever there is this project that is constructed, it is the local people who could be harmed as well. The electricity will be provided to some other state, but it is the local people who will be harmed. Their lands will be snatched away, they have to be rehabilitated, and it is their region which is going under the hammer, says this particular article. So what we have also seen is protests that are fueled because of loss of land, loss of opportunities and livelihood means from the local to these mega projects. So the overall discussion is about Diamer Basha Dam, but kindly remember, with respect to the Gilgit Baltistan, the link for the same will be provided in the description box. Now let's look into the next article. This article says NCB questions Deepika for 5 hours in drug racket case. Bollywood is not our focus. Our focus today is on Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. An elaborate analysis of this act has been explained in our last week's CNA. But what are we looking today? Our focus would be on lawful interception of online communication platform such as WhatsApp, Skype or Telegram. When you look at this particular issue, you would have understood that because there was a WhatsApp chat and this chat was taken as an evidence when it comes to asking these people to come and answer the questions of the Narcotics Control Bureau. Now the question is, will all these authorities like the Narcotics Control Bureau or for example Enforcement Directorate or for example Central Bureau of Investigation, can they intercept such information? The answer to this is yes. All these bodies are important institutions established by the government of India which are working for the security of India, and they under the Information Technology Act would be able to intercept, monitor and decrypt any information generated, transmitted, received or stored in any computer source. So since it is speaking about computer source, another electronic item is the WhatsApp as well. So WhatsApp information or anything for the security can be decrypted by the Narcotics Control Bureau, Enforcement Director and the Central Bureau of Investigation. Now the question is, can WhatsApp chats be admissible as evidence in the court of law? Yes, WhatsApp chats are admissible in the court as evidence if they satisfy the criteria as mentioned under the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. We have one of the sections in Indian Evidence Act of 1872 and that happens to be section 65A. What does it speak about? It speaks about the evidence given by the electronic records. In case they are able to meet all the criteria as established by 65B, then that is permissible under the court of law. But there are other concerns as well. What are these concerns? Let's say for example, we know for the fact that the Narcotics Control Bureau would be able to intercept the information. That is 100% fine. But if this information, this investigation is right or wrong, an inquiry will be done by the court of law, and it is the court of law which will approve whether that particular person is guilty of the offense or not. How did the information collected by the Narcotics Control Bureau, a chat of a private person, come into the media is the first important question we need to answer. When this information is given to the media, it means there is violation of the privacy, it means there is conduction of the media trial, it also means inquiry is not made by the court of law, which also means that the NCB, which is a state actor which has to keep all this information in a confidential way, is giving this information violating the law to the media is the major concern. So what are the concerns? There is media trial, there is violation of the privacy, and at the same time there is leaking of the information which is ideally supposed to be confidential with the state, but that is getting violated is what this article all about. But for the rest of the issue of Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, kindly look into our last week's CNA. Now let's look into some of the preliminary practice questions. Which of the following are correctly matched? Garba, Gujarat, Guma, Rajasthan, Mamita, Tripura. This speaking about the folk dances. The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. all the three are correctly matched. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. So the Gujarat government has suspended the Garba event. Why? Because of the increasing issues of COVID-19 spreading. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following pairs: Panna Tiger Reserve, Arunachal Pradesh; Satkosia Tiger Reserve, Gujarat; Rajaji Tiger Reserve, Tamil Nadu; Pakke Tiger Reserve, Madhya Pradesh. Which of the above pairs are correctly matched? The answer to this is none. Why? Because all the matches that are here are wrong. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. So kindly remember, Panna is not in Arunachal Pradesh. Instead, it is in Madhya Pradesh. Satkosia is in Odisha. Rajaji Tiger Reserve is in Uttarakhand, and Pakke is in Arunachal Pradesh. There are other important tiger reserves. Look into this particular image as well. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements about Copernicus program. It is the Earth observation program managed by the European Space Agency in collaboration with European Union. India has joined Europe's global arrangement of sharing data from Earth observation satellite. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. So kindly remember, this Copernicus program is the Earth observation program which is managed by European Space Agency in collaboration with European Union. How does it help? It helps in emergency situations like in predicting the floods, fire and droughts, security when it comes to border surveillance and maritime surveillance, climate change when it comes to helping the policy makers, land issues when it comes to monitoring the biophysical matter, the marine issues when it comes to the marine resources and seasonal forecasting, and also with respect to atmosphere issue in predicting the air quality, ozone layer emissions, solar radiation and climate forcings as well. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements about Rosetta is or correct? It was a space probe built by NASA. This is a wrong statement, and Rosetta performed a detailed study of Comet 67P, Churyumov-Gerasimenko. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference of the Comet 67P. The European Space Agency's Rosetta had previously studied this Comet 67P, and now this is for the first time that there is a far ultraviolet aurora that is coming from this comet, says this article. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which one of the following is a purpose of Uday, a scheme of the Government of India? Providing technical and financial assistance to startup entrepreneurs in the field of renewable source of energy. This is wrong. Providing electricity to every household in the country by 2018. This is wrong. Replacing the coal-based power plants with natural gas, nuclear, solar, wind and tidal power plants over a period of time. This is wrong. The answer to this is providing for financial turnaround and revival of power distribution companies. So the answer to this is D. Now let's look into the mains practice question. Today we have an essay. You will have to write it within 1000 to 1200 words. The two essays include restructuring of United Nations organization to reflect the present realities, and this next essay, changes call for innovation and innovation leads to progress. So please write both these essays on the comment section, peer review, come up with some constructive criticism as well. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.